Captain Sarah Chen stared at her communication screen with growing worry. For the third time in 2 hours, she tried to contact New Eden Colony. The screen remained dark and silent. "Still nothing, Captain," her communications officer reported, from across the bridge. "The colony should have sent their weekly report 6 hours ago." Sarah frowned. New Eden Colony was known for being precise about their schedules. The colony of 2.3 million people had never missed a single weekly check-in during their 12 years of operation. Something was very wrong. "Set course for New Eden," Sarah ordered. "Maximum speed, the UES Meridian, a patrol cruiser assigned to monitor the Outer Rim territories, change direction toward the distant colony world." What should have been a routine patrol was about to become something much darker. 2 days later, the Meridian dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Eden system. Sarah expected to see the usual signs of a busy colony world. Cargo ships moving between the planet and orbital stations, mining vessels working the asteroid belt, the warm glow of cities on the night side of the planet. Instead, she saw nothing but darkness. "Captain," the sensor officer called out, his voice shaking, "I'm reading no energy signatures from the planet. No ships in orbit, no radio signals, nothing." Sarah's stomach dropped. She had served in space for 20 years and had never seen anything like this. A colony world didn't just go silent, not like this. "Take us closer," she ordered. "Full sensor, sweep." As the Meridian moved deeper into the system, the sensors began picking up debris. Lots of debris, pieces of ships, station modules, and things Sarah didn't want to think about too closely. "Captain, I'm detecting the emergency beacon from Orbital Station 3, the communications officer reported. "It's weak, but it's there." "Put it on screen." The message that appeared made everyone on the bridge go silent. The timestamp showed it was recorded 3 days ago. A terrified human face appeared on the screen. Station Commander Lisa Park, someone Sarah had met during previous visits to New Eden. "This is Commander Park of New Eden Orbital 3, the recording began. "We are under attack by unknown alien vessels. They appeared without warning and began firing on civilian targets." "The planet. Oh God, the planet is burning. They're not trying to conquer us. They're trying to kill us all." The image shook as explosions rocked the station. The attackers identified themselves as the hegemony of Kethvar. They broadcast a message saying humans are vermin that need to be cleaned from their space. They said New Eden is just the beginning. More explosions. The lights flickered. "We tried to evacuate the children first, but they targeted the evacuation ships. They're hunting down our escape pods. They want no survivors. If anyone receives this message, tell Earth what happened here. Tell them the Kethvar showed no mercy. Tell them the recording cut to static." Sarah stood in the bridge's silence for a long moment. Around her, her crew stared at their screens in shock. Finally, she spoke. "Take us to the planet." The closer they got to New Eden, the worse it became. The orbital stations were ruins, twisted metal floating in space. The asteroid mining facilities were completely destroyed. And the planet itself, Jesus Christ, whispered the sensor officer. New Eden had been transformed into a ball of glass and ash. Where once green continents and blue oceans had supported millions of human lives, now there was only the smooth, dark surface of a world that had been burned from orbit. The entire planet had been sterilized. "Captain," the communications officer said quietly, "I'm picking up a very weak signal from the surface. Someone's still alive down there." "What? How is that possible?" "It's coming from the old mining complex, in the northern mountains, the one built into the rock face. Maybe the stone protected them." Sarah didn't hesitate. "Prepare a shuttle. I'm going down there." An hour later, Sarah and 2 of her crew members landed their shuttle near the mining complex. Their radiation detectors clicked constantly. The entire planet was poisoned with the after effects of the alien bombardment. They had maybe 2 hours before their protective suits would fail. The mining complex was a ruin, but deep inside the mountain, they found an emergency shelter. Inside, they found her, a little girl, maybe 8 years old, barely alive. Her name was Maya, and she was the only survivor they could find on the entire planet. As Sarah's medical officer worked to save the child, Maya whispered something that made Sarah's blood run cold. "They talked to us before they started shooting," Maya said, her voice barely audible. The aliens. They said humans were like insects that had spread too far. They said they would clean us out of space, one world at a time. They said other humans should see what happened here and run away. Maya coughed, and Sarah saw blood. The child was dying from radiation poisoning. They said we were vermin, Maya continued. They said they would make sure no human would ever live in their space again. They laughed when our ships tried to run away. They hunted them down like it was a game. Sarah held the dying child's hand. Maya, we're going to get you to safety. You're going to be okay. But Maya shook her head. No, I know I'm dying. But you have to tell Earth. You have to tell them what the Kethvar did to us. Don't let them forget us. 3 hours later, Maya died in the shuttle as they raced back to the Meridian. Sarah stared down at the small body and felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. In her 20 years in space, she had seen accidents, equipment failures, and natural disasters. But she had never seen deliberate, calculated genocide. The Kethvar hadn't just destroyed a colony. They had murdered 2.3 million innocent people, families, children, scientists, teachers, farmers. People who had never hurt anyone, who had just wanted to build new lives among the stars. Back on the Meridian, Sarah composed her report to Earth Command. She attached the emergency beacon recording, the sensor data showing the complete destruction of the planet, and her own testimony about finding Maya. She also included one additional item, the Kethvar's own broadcast that Maya had remembered. Azini. She sent the report through the quantum communication relay. Sarah looked out at the dead world of New Eden one last time. The Kethvar thought they had sent a message to humanity. They thought they had shown humans the cost of expanding into space. They were right. They had sent a message. But it wasn't the message they thought. What the Kethvar didn't understand was that humans had a very specific response to genocide. Throughout their history, when someone tried to wipe out innocent human lives, the rest of humanity came together in ways that surprised everyone, including themselves. Sarah's report would reach Earth in 6 hours. And then the Kethvar would learn what humanity did to those who murdered their children. The silence of New Eden would not go unanswered. The emergency session of the Solar Defense Council began at exactly 0800 Earth Standard Time. President Elena Vasquez sat at the head of the massive circular table, her face grim as she looked around at the representatives from every human world and colony. Admiral Marcus Reeves stood at the center of the chamber, a holographic display showing the devastation of New Eden floating above his head. The images were hard to look at: the glassed planet, the destroyed orbital stations, the debris fields that had once been evacuation ships. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Reeves began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber, 12 hours ago, we received confirmation of the complete destruction of New Eden Colony. 2.3 million human civilians are dead. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Everyone had heard the reports, but seeing the evidence laid out so clearly made it real in a way that hurt. The attackers have been identified as the hegemony of Kethvar, Reeves continued. According to the sole survivor, an 8-year-old girl who died shortly after rescue, the aliens broadcast their intention to cleanse human space. This was not a territorial dispute or a resource conflict. This was genocide. Representative Johnson from Mars Colony raised his hand. Admiral, what do we know about these Kethvar? Their military capabilities? Intelligence estimates put their fleet strength at approximately 50,000 vessels of various classes, Reeves replied. They're a militant species that has conquered 12 other alien civilizations over the past 2 centuries. They view expansion by other species as a threat to their dominance. 50,000 ships, muttered Representative Chen from Europa Station. That's a significant force. President Vasquez stood up, and the chamber fell silent. The Kethvar have made a mistake, she said, her voice cold and clear. They think they attacked a colony. What they actually did was declare war on all of humanity. She gestured to her aide, who activated another holographic display. This one showed the text of the Human Colonial Charter, specifically Article 7. Any act of genocide against human colonies shall be met with the full force of human civilization, Vasquez read aloud. This article was written after the colonial wars ended 200 years ago. We swore that never again would humans stand by while innocent civilians were slaughtered. She looked around the chamber. I am hereby invoking Article 7. As of this moment, every human world, every human corporation, every human organization is required to contribute to our response. Representative Williams from Alpha Centauri stood up. Madam President, with respect, what kind of response are we talking about? The HFY have 50,000 ships. Our entire active fleet is only 30,000 vessels. Admiral Reeves smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. Representative Williams, you're thinking too small. Our active fleet is 30,000 ships, but humanity has been building starships for 300 years. We've mothballed thousands of vessels from the colonial wars. We have defense fleets around every major world. We have corporate security fleets, mining vessel escorts, and deep space exploration ships. The Admiral gestured, and a new display appeared. A massive list of ship classes and numbers that seemed to go on forever. When I ran the calculations this morning, Reeves continued, I found that humanity currently possesses approximately 200,000 vessels capable of military conversion. Add in our construction capacity, and within 3 months, we can field 700,000 warships. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. 700,000 ships was an impossible number. No military force in known galactic history had ever assembled anything close to that size. Admiral, called out Representative Singh from Titan, surely that's logistically impossible. The coordination alone. Actually, it's not, interrupted Dr. Sarah Mitchell, head of the Human Space Coordination Network. Our quantum communication grid was designed to handle massive fleet operations. The AI systems we developed for asteroid mining can coordinate thousands of ships simultaneously. The logistics network we built for colonial supply runs can support fleet operations across multiple star systems. She stood up and activated her own display. What Representative Singh and the rest of the galaxy don't understand is that humanity has spent the last 200 years accidentally building the infrastructure for the largest military operation in galactic history. We just never used it for war before. President Vasquez nodded. Dr. Mitchell is correct. We built our civilization to support peaceful expansion across the galaxy, but that same infrastructure can support something else entirely. Admiral Reeves took control again. Here's what's going to happen. Every human world will begin immediate war production. The shipyards at Luna, Mars, Europa, Titan, and 43 other locations are being retooled for military production. Every mothballed warship is being pulled from storage and upgraded with our latest weapons technology. The displays around the chamber began showing production schedules, ship deployment plans, and resource allocation charts. The mining operations in the outer systems will increase production beyond peacetime safety limits, Reeves continued. Every fusion plant in human space will be running at maximum capacity. Every manufacturing center will be converted to produce weapons, armor, and ship components. Representative Taylor from New Australia looked pale. Admiral, you're talking about converting our entire civilization to a war footing. The economic disruption alone. Representative Taylor, President. Vasquez interrupted. The HFY murdered 2.3 million civilians, including children. They broadcast their intention to cleanse human space. Do you think they're going to stop with New Eden? She gestured to the holographic display showing New Eden's glassed surface. This is what they do to species they consider inferior. They don't conquer. They don't negotiate. They exterminate. The only question is whether we stop them now, or wait for them to destroy more human worlds. The chamber fell silent as everyone looked at the images of New Eden's destruction. Admiral Reeves spoke into the quiet. I've been in the military for 30 years. I've studied every major conflict in human history. When humanity is pushed to this point, when our civilians are targeted for extermination, we don't fight like other species. We don't fight for territory or resources or political advantage. He gestured to the image of the dead world. We fight to make sure this never happens again. And when we fight like that, we don't lose. President Vasquez called for a vote on the Article 7 mobilization. The result was unanimous. Every human world, every human organization would contribute to the largest military buildup in galactic history. As the delegates filed out to begin implementing the mobilization orders, Admiral Reeves remained behind, with President Vasquez "Elena," he said quietly, 700,000 ships is going to terrify every other species in the galaxy. They're going to think we're planning to conquer everyone." Vasquez looked at the image of New Eden one more time. "Marcus, after what the Kethvar did to our people, I don't care what the rest of the galaxy thinks. The only thing that matters is making sure this never happens to human civilians again." 3 months later, at the staging point of Kepler Station, 700,000 human warships gathered in the largest fleet ever assembled by any known species. From the bridge of the flagship UES Retribution, Admiral Reeves looked out at the impossible sight of hundreds of thousands of ships stretching beyond the horizon. The Kethvar had wanted to send humanity a message about knowing their place in the galaxy. Humanity was about to send a message back. Fleet Admiral Marcus Reeves stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, looking out at a sight that had never before existed in galactic history. Stretching in every direction around the massive dreadnought were 700,000 human warships, organized in perfect formations that extended beyond the visual horizon. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "all fleet commanders are standing by. We're ready to enter Kethvar space." Reeves nodded. "Signal the fleet. Begin the advance." Like a tide of metal and fury, the human armada began to move. The smaller ships, frigates, destroyers, and cruisers formed the outer waves. Behind them came the heavy cruisers and battleships. At the center, the massive dreadnoughts moved like sleeping giants, their weapons capable of reducing planets to ash. Across Kethvar space, monitoring stations detected the approaching fleet and sent urgent warnings to their military command. High Commander Thekmor of the Kethvar War Council studied the reports with growing irritation. According to his intelligence officers, the humans had assembled some kind of large fleet in response to the cleansing of their colony. "How many ships are we talking about?" Thekmor asked his intelligence chief. "The reports are inconsistent, High Commander. Some monitoring stations claim to detect tens of thousands of vessels. Others report hundreds of thousands." Thekmor's 4 eyes narrowed. "Hundreds of thousands is impossible. No species has ever assembled more than 20,000 ships in a single fleet. The logistics alone would be impossible." His tactical advisor, Sub-Commander Vraktul, activated a holographic display showing their defensive positions. "High Commander, our border fleets total 50,000 vessels. Even if the humans have somehow assembled 100,000 ships, our defensive positions should hold. We have the advantage of fighting from prepared positions." "Exactly," Thekmor agreed. "The humans are showing typical mammalian emotional overreaction. They've probably stripped every world of defensive ships to create one large, unwieldy fleet. Once we destroy it, their colonies will be defenseless." What the Kethvar didn't understand was that human fleet coordination was based on technologies they had never encountered. The quantum communication network that connected every human ship allowed for real-time coordination across vast distances. The AI systems that had been developed to manage mining operations and supply chains could track and coordinate the movements of hundreds of thousands of individual vessels. 3 days later, the first contact occurred at the border system of Zeth Prime. The Kethvar Fourth Fleet, consisting of 12,000 ships, was positioned in defensive formation around the system's primary planet. Fleet Commander Zach Thul of the Fourth Fleet was confident as he watched the human ships drop out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. His sensors showed exactly what he expected: a large human fleet, maybe 20,000 ships, approaching in a standard attack formation. "All ships, prepare for combat," Zakthul ordered. "We'll show these mammals what happens when they challenge the hegemony." But as more and more human ships continued to appear, Zakthul's confidence began to waver. 30,000 ships, 50,000 ships, 100,000 ships. The sensors kept counting, and the numbers kept rising. "Commander," his sensor officer reported, his voice shaking, "I'm reading 200,000 human vessels." "No, 300,000. The count keeps rising." Zakthul stared at his display in disbelief. It wasn't possible. No species could coordinate that many ships effectively. But the human fleet moved with perfect precision, their formations shifting and flowing. Like a single organism. "Open a channel to War Command," Zakthul ordered. "Tell them we need immediate reinforcement. The humans have brought their entire civilization to war. But there was no time for reinforcements. The human fleet had finished its deployment, and now 400,000 ships faced the 12,000 vessels of the Fourth Fleet. Admiral Reeves opened a communication channel to the HFY fleet. "This is Fleet Admiral Reeves of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You have committed genocide against human civilians. Surrender immediately, or you will be destroyed." Zach Thule, despite his fear, couldn't show weakness before his own fleet. "Human Admiral, you are in HFY space illegally. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences." "Very well," Reeves replied calmly. "You have chosen." The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was an execution. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, their attack patterns flowing like water around the HFY defensive positions. Where the aliens expected frontal assaults, the humans used enveloping maneuvers. Where the HFY tried to concentrate their firepower, the humans dispersed and attacked from unexpected angles. But what truly shocked the HFY was the sheer volume of firepower. When 400,000 human ships focused their weapons on a single target, that target simply ceased to exist. Entire HFY battle groups were destroyed in seconds by concentrated bombardments that turned their ships into expanding clouds of plasma. The Fourth Fleet tried to fight back, but it was like trying to stop an ocean with a bucket. For every human ship they destroyed, 100 more took its place. Their weapons, designed to fight fleets of comparable size, were simply overwhelmed by the impossible numbers they faced. 4 hours after the battle began, it was over. The entire HFY Fourth Fleet had been annihilated. Not a single human ship had been lost. As the human fleet regrouped, Admiral Reeves opened a communication channel that broadcast across all of HFY space. "This is Admiral Reeves of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You destroyed New Eden Colony and murdered 2.3 million innocent civilians. You declared your intention to cleanse human space. Now you will face the consequences of genocide." His voice was calm, but there was something in it that made every HFY who heard it feel cold fear. "You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will systematically destroy every military asset you possess. Your ships, your stations, your planetary defenses, all of it will be reduced to debris." He paused, and when he continued, his voice carried the weight of 700,000 warships and the fury of an entire species. "You wanted to cleanse human space. Instead, you have awakened something that should have remained sleeping. We are coming for you. We are coming with the full strength of human civilization, and we will not stop until you pay for every innocent life you took." The transmission ended, leaving HFY space in stunned silence. In the War Council chambers, on HFY Prime, High Commander Thekmore stared at the battle reports with growing horror. His intelligence officers had finally gotten accurate counts of the human fleet. 700,000 ships, he whispered. "How is that possible?" His tactical advisor was equally stunned. "High Commander, our entire military consists of 50,000 vessels. Even with our vassal species, we can't match numbers like that." Thekmore looked at the strategic display showing human forces advancing into HFY space. Behind them, more fleets were following. Supply ships, construction vessels, and what appeared to be entire mobile shipyards. They're not just bringing a fleet, he realized. They're bringing their entire industrial capacity. They mean to stay until we're completely destroyed. For the first time in his military career, High Commander Thekmore understood what it meant to face an enemy that was not just angry, but absolutely committed to victory regardless of cost. The humans weren't coming to conquer HFY space. They were coming to make sure that the species that had committed genocide against human civilians would never be able to do so again. And they were bringing 700,000 warships to make that promise a reality. High Commander Thekmore stood in the center of the HFY War Council chamber, his 4 eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the systematic destruction of his empire. Red markers indicated human fleet positions, and they were everywhere. "Report," he ordered his intelligence chief. "High Commander, the humans have divided their fleet into multiple task forces. They're not just attacking our military targets, they're completely dismantling our infrastructure. Supply depots, communication relays, manufacturing centers, all of it is being destroyed." Sub-Commander Vraktul pointed to the display. They're using tactics we've never seen before. Instead of trying to hold territory, they sweep through our systems, destroy everything of military value, and move on. Our defensive fleets can't respond fast enough. Thekmore watched as another red marker appeared on the display. The Veltara mining complex, which supplied raw materials for their shipyards, had just gone offline. What about our vassal species? Have they responded to our call for support? That's complicated, High Commander, his diplomatic advisor replied carefully. The Zephyron Confederation has pledged their support, but their fleet is only 8,000 ships. The Mordai Republic is still debating whether to honor their mutual defense treaty, and the Quillon Federation has officially declared neutrality. Thekmore's mandibles clicked in frustration. Cowards! They're afraid the humans will turn on them next. Can you blame them? Vractul asked quietly. High Commander, no one has ever seen anything like this human fleet. 700,000 ships moving, with perfect coordination. Their logistics capabilities are beyond anything we thought possible. The intelligence chief activated another display. High Commander, we need to discuss something else. Our analysts have been studying the human attack patterns, and we've noticed something disturbing. What? They're not just destroying our military assets. They're systematically destroying anything that could be used to rebuild our military capacity. They're targeting our industrial worlds, our research facilities, our training academies. It's like they're trying to ensure we can never threaten anyone again. Thekmore studied the patterns on the display. The human attacks showed a level of strategic planning that was frightening in its thoroughness. They're not fighting to defeat us, he realized. They're fighting to end us as a military power forever. The communication system chimed with an incoming message. On the screen appeared Admiral Reeves, broadcasting from the bridge of his flagship. High Commander Thekmore, Reeves began. Your 72-hour deadline expired 6 hours ago. Since you chose not to surrender, we have begun the systematic dismantling of your military capacity. Behind Reeves, the bridge of the Retribution showed the organized chaos of a massive military operation. Officers moved efficiently between stations, while displays showed the positions of hundreds of thousands of ships. Your fourth fleet at Zeth. Prime has been destroyed. Your supply depot at Cormandus has been eliminated. The shipyards at Velkara are no longer operational. This will continue until you surrender unconditionally, or until you no longer possess the ability to threaten human civilians. Thekmore stepped forward. Admiral Reeves, surely we can negotiate some kind of settlement. This level of destruction benefits no one. Reeves's expression didn't change. High Commander, you murdered 2.3 million innocent human civilians. You hunted down evacuation ships carrying children. You boasted about cleansing human space. There will be no negotiation. But, Admiral, destroying our entire civilization serves no purpose. We're not destroying your civilization, Reeves replied calmly. We're destroying your ability to commit genocide. Your civilian populations are untouched. Your non-military infrastructure remains intact. But every weapon you possess, every ship that can carry those weapons, every facility that can build more weapons, all of that will be eliminated. The transmission ended, leaving the War Council in stunned silence. Over the following weeks, the human fleet demonstrated the meaning of total warfare. They didn't occupy territory in the traditional sense. Instead, they flowed through Kethvar space like a destructive tide, eliminating everything of military value and moving on. The Kethvar tried everything they could think of. They assembled their remaining fleets for a decisive battle, only to discover that human intelligence networks had anticipated their movements. When the Kethvar 2nd and 3rd fleets tried to combine forces at the Morktal system, they found 200,000 human ships waiting for them. The battle was over in 3 hours. 18,000 Kethvar vessels were destroyed without the loss of a single human ship. They tried guerrilla tactics, using small raider fleets to attack human supply lines. But the humans had brought their entire logistics network with them. Mobile shipyards, automated mining platforms, and construction fleets that could repair and refit their vessels without returning to base. They tried diplomatic appeals to other alien species, begging them to intervene before the humans turned their attention elsewhere. But the galaxy had heard about New Eden. Every other species was busy demonstrating their peaceful intentions toward humanity. Finally, in desperation, they made their last gamble. Every remaining Kethvar ship, military, civilian, anything that could mount a weapon, was called to defend their homeworld. High Commander Thekmor would make humanity pay such a price for their conquest that they would think twice before threatening anyone else. When the human fleet arrived at Kethvar Prime, Thekmor was ready. 30,000 ships, everything his civilization had left, waited in defensive formation around their heavily fortified homeworld. But the humans didn't attack. Instead, they simply surrounded the planet. All 700,000 ships formed a perfect sphere around Kethvar Prime, their weapons trained on the defending fleet. For 3 days, they waited in ominous silence. The only communication was a simple message broadcast continuously toward the planet. Remember New Eden. On the 4th day, Thekmor couldn't stand the psychological pressure any longer. He ordered the attack. The final battle of the war lasted exactly 47 minutes. The massed firepower of 700,000 human ships, concentrated on a single target, was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Kethvar defensive fleet didn't just lose, it was vaporized so completely that not even debris remained. As the orbital defense platforms around Kethvar Prime exploded one by one, Thekmor stood in his command bunker deep beneath the planet's surface and watched his civilization's military power die. Admiral Reeves's voice echoed through the bunker's communication system. "High Commander Thekmor, you are now completely defenseless. Your fleets are destroyed. Your orbital defenses are eliminated. You have no ability to threaten human civilians ever again." Thekmor looked around at his surviving officers, the few who remained after the complete destruction of their military. "What are your terms, Admiral?" he asked quietly. "Unconditional surrender, complete disarmament, dissolution of your military, government, and something else, something that will ensure you never forget the price of genocide." Thekmor closed his eyes. His empire, built over centuries of conquest, had been dismantled in less than 2 months by a species they had dismissed as inferior mammals. "We surrender," he whispered. Above Kethvar Prime, the 700,000 ships of humanity's wrath maintained their vigil, a reminder that some lines should never be crossed. The galaxy was learning a new lesson. Humans might be peaceful, but they remembered, they're dead with perfect clarity, and they never, ever forgave genocide. High Commander Thekmor stood in what had once been the grand chamber of the Kethvar War Council. The room was dark now, its power systems damaged in the final bombardment of their orbital defenses. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on. The walls, making the ancient symbols of Kethvar military, might look like ghosts. Admiral Reeves materialized as a hologram in the center of the ruined chamber. Even as a projection, the human commander radiated an authority that made Thekmor's remaining officers step back. "High Commander," Reeves began, his voice echoing in the damaged chamber, "your surrender has been accepted. Your military forces have been completely eliminated. Your government is dissolved. The Kethvar hegemony no longer exists." Thekmor looked around at his handful of surviving advisors. A few weeks ago, they had commanded an empire spanning dozens of star systems. Now they were the leaders of nothing. "Admiral," Thekmor said, trying to maintain some dignity, "you have won. Our fleets are destroyed, our worlds conquered. Will you now do to us what we did to your colony? Will you glass our worlds as we glassed New Eden?" The chamber fell silent as everyone waited for the human's answer. This was the moment that would define what humanity truly was. Conquerors seeking revenge, or something else entirely. Reeves was quiet for a long moment. Behind him, through the holographic display, Thekmor could see the bridge of the human flagship. Officers moved efficiently between stations, managing the vast fleet that surrounded Kethvar Prime. The weight of 700,000 warships and humanity's collective fury seemed to press down on the ruined chamber. "No," Reeves finally said. "We are not you." Thekmor felt a mixture of relief and confusion. "Then what will you do with us?" "You will understand the consequences of your actions," Reeves replied. "But first let me explain what you accomplished. When you destroyed New Eden." The hologram flickered, and suddenly the chamber was filled with images. Not of war and destruction, but of life. Pictures of New Eden before its destruction appeared on every wall. Children playing in parks, Farmers working in fields, scientists studying alien plant life, families gathered for meals. These were the people you murdered, Reeves continued. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had spent 20 years developing new agricultural techniques that could have fed millions. Thomas and Maria Santos, who were raising 3 adopted children from different worlds. Little Amy Chen, age 6, who wanted to be a starship pilot when she grew up. More images appeared. Wedding photos, birthday parties, graduation ceremonies. The simple, everyday moments that made up human lives. 3 million people, High Commander. Each one with dreams, families, friends, each one who never threatened you or your people, each one who died because you decided they were vermin to be cleaned from space. Thekmore found himself looking away from the images. It was one thing to order the destruction of an enemy colony. It was another to see the faces of the people he had killed. You wanted to send humanity a message about our place in the galaxy, Reeves continued. You succeeded. But the message you sent was not what you intended. The images disappeared, replaced by a single display showing the current positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. There were a lot more ships than even the massive force at Kethvar Prime. What you accomplished, High Commander, was to unite humanity in a way that hasn't happened since our ancient world wars. Every human world, every human corporation, every human family contributed to this fleet. You didn't attack a colony, you attacked all of us. Admiral Reeves gestured, and the display changed to show production figures from across human space. Shipyards running at maximum capacity, mining operations extracting resources faster than ever before, weapons factories that had been converted, from civilian manufacturing in a matter of weeks. In 3 months, humanity built the largest military force in galactic history. We did it because you murdered our children. We did it because you declared your intention to cleanse human space. We did it because someone had to make sure this never happens again. Thekmore finally found his voice. So what happens now? You've destroyed our military. You've conquered our worlds. What are your terms? Our terms are simple, Reeves replied. The Kethvar Empire is permanently dissolved. Your military is disbanded forever. Your government will be restructured under human oversight to ensure you never again possess the ability to commit genocide. Subcommander Vraktul stepped forward. Admiral, surely that's enough. You've already won completely. No, Reeves said firmly. That's not enough, because you don't understand what you've done. You haven't just committed a military defeat. You've committed genocide. And there is a price for that which goes beyond simple conquest. The holographic display changed again, showing construction plans for something massive. Thekmore studied the images, trying to understand what he was seeing. You will spend the next 100 years rebuilding, Reeves explained. But you won't be rebuilding your own worlds. You will be establishing memorial colonies. One for every single human life lost at New Eden. 2.3 million new settlements, each one dedicated to remembering the people you murdered. The scope of what the Admiral was describing hit Thekmore like a physical blow. That's impossible. The resources required? You found the resources to build 50,000 warships for conquest, Reeves replied coldly. You'll find the resources to build 2.3 million memorial settlements for redemption. Every Kethvar will participate. Every one of your people will spend their lives ensuring that the names and stories of your victims are never forgotten. Images appeared showing the planned memorial colonies, beautiful settlements with parks, libraries, and monuments, each one designed to honor specific victims of the New Eden massacre. The Amy Chen Memorial Colony will have the finest schools in the galaxy, Reeves continued. The Dr. Sarah Kim Agricultural Research Station will develop new farming techniques for struggling worlds. The Santos Family Community Center will help orphaned children from across the galaxy. Thekmore stared at the images in shock. You're turning us into caretakers of your dead. We're turning you into something better than you were, Reeves corrected. For 100 years, every Kethvar will wake up and spend their day honoring the memory of someone they helped kill. Maybe by the end of that time you'll understand why genocide is wrong. The Admiral's expression softened slightly. High Commander, humanity could have simply destroyed your species entirely. We had the power to glass every Kethvar world just as you glassed New Eden. But we chose not to because we believe people can change. Even people who commit terrible crimes can find redemption. But that redemption must be earned, he continued, his voice hardening again. "It must be paid for with decades of service to the memory of your victims. It must be demonstrated through actions, not words." Admiral Reeves gestured to his officers, and several human officials materialized as holograms around the chamber. "These are the administrators who will oversee the transition. They will work with your civilian government to establish the new order. Any attempt to resist these terms, any effort to rebuild military capabilities, any action that threatens human civilians, anywhere in the galaxy will result in the immediate return of this fleet." He looked directly at Thekmor. "Do I make myself clear?" Thekmor nodded slowly. He was broken, his empire destroyed, his people facing a century of servitude to the memory of their victims. But somehow, it felt almost merciful. The humans could have simply killed them all. Instead, they were offering a path to redemption, however difficult. "I understand, Admiral." "Good." Reeves prepared to end the transmission, then paused. "One more thing, High Commander. The galaxy is watching. Every other species has seen what happens when humanity's civilians are targeted. They've seen 700,000 human warships working in perfect coordination. They understand now that humans don't conquer for resources or territory." The Admiral's final words carried the weight of absolute conviction. "We fight to protect our families, and we will never, ever forgive those who murder our children." 6 months later, Maya Santos Chen stood on the restored surface of New Eden, now serving as a captain in the colonial fleet. She was 26 years old, the little girl who had been the sole survivor of the massacre, now grown into a woman shaped by both tragedy and hope. Around her stretched the Memorial Park, where 2.3 million graves marked the site where a thriving human colony had once stood. Each gravestone bore not just a name, but a story. The dreams, accomplishments, and loves of the people who had died here. Above her, a single human warship maintained eternal vigil in orbit. The UES New Eden, a dreadnought that would remain here forever, ensuring that this world's silence would never be forgotten. In the distance, she could see the construction of the first Kethvar Memorial Colony. Former enemies working alongside human supervisors to build something beautiful in honor of people they had never known, but had helped kill. Maya placed flowers on her parents' graves and those of her younger brothers. The radiation poisoning that had nearly killed her as a child had left her unable to have children of her own. But she had found another purpose, ensuring that New Eden's story was told across the galaxy. As she prepared to leave, she noticed a group of young Kethvar, workers nearby carefully tending to the memorial gardens.